All right, good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, July 18th, 2024. Let's take a look at what happened here yesterday. In my opinion, some beautiful opportunities. Almost every morning, right? Sometimes it's just a chop fest, but end of the day here, and by the way, we're going to go ahead and hide this because this was not on the charts. It should have been on the charts yesterday. Let's put it that way. There's a level here coming across. This is basically the low of yesterday. They did dip into it here and here. But this level should have been on the charts. You guys know what it is if you know my trading system. So it is on there for today, but it wasn't there yesterday. So let me go ahead and remove it. And I should say again, it should have been there. I should have put it on there. Anyway, let's go over to the open here and take a look. Market opened up. We were talking about there being potential in the charts for the pullback, right? But if we were in our chop zone, basically 56.20 to 57.20, 100-point range is where the market has been chopping up and down for 4 or 5 days now, right? So I told you be careful inside of here, but it did look like it made sense for the market to try and pull back. And so came in and basically a little bit ambivalent of a bias until we could see some levels hold. And what do you know? They come out of the open, starting from down here, pop out. We get the pullback, doesn't quite hold the 200, right? So again, here's another example of when you get in a trade off the 200 and then bam, smacks right off the FMA in real time here. Should be a clue, hey, this is probably going to come retest and then bounce, maybe break the low for a peak below and bounce. Or that might be it. It might come down lower, right? So that didn't quite work out. But let's zoom this back out. You can take a look. This is, I mean, I didn't even have to measure it. I mean, it's quite literally a 50% retrace, almost to the tick, right? So we have the push out from the low of the overnight session there. Pulls back, it holds the 50 with a perfect double bottom with bullish divergence. And then pops out. And this is really the kind of the clue that we got coming out of the open here, and that is the market held off the back end of VWAP. So we came up, we got a bearish divergence at VWAP, and then this market pulled back. And this little double bottom here would have been a great place to go ahead and try to enter, basically off the fast moving average, noticing that there was that weakness off the high of the VWAP, and from there we just got a beautiful sell-off. So held the back end of VWAP and one tick from our roadmap level at 73, right? So that I think was the high of the day. One tick from the next roadmap level up from 56, 65, 75. Next one was previous daily low. So bam, hits that, and then we start a pretty nice little sell-off. You had an opportunity on that sell-off to go ahead and jump in short off the back end of 56, 65, 75 to the tick. Or once it came into our major extension level here, you could have tried the back end of it, again, with bearish divergence off that high to try and jump in for the continuation to the downside. Remember, if you were watching the market, this is what you saw here before we had broken through the next roadmap level at 59. You would have seen major rejection off VWAP. There is, my friends, that textbook 61.8 retrace to the tick. And then the failure, right? It was actually one tick in front of it. I didn't draw it perfectly there. Could be to the tick. And then continue on its merry way down. And now here it is, petering out, interestingly, right around the next roadmap level. But then what happens? They duck down below, come right back up. And as they're testing our level, you get the big, beautiful bearish divergence and the continuation to the downside. So there were opportunity there. There was a bearish opportunity, an aggressive bearish opportunity off the FMA. Didn't quite give you more than about 4 points. And then we got a retest of this roadmap level. And how often do we see this type of price action where we're coming down and then kissing off the back end of our roadmap level and then coming down and kissing off the back end of our roadmap level again with this kind of inverse stair step. So if you ask me, pretty incredible, right? You had great opportunities there to short pretty much off the back end of each roadmap level as everything started to sell off. right? And then from there, it kind of got a little sideways. And I forgot to mention the biggest bounce of the morning, as we're failing off VWAP, is 2 ticks or 3 ticks in front of the next expected support. So if you were short from VWAP, or you're short from the back end of 65, or you're short from the back end of 59, all opportunities with almost zero risk, you should have known as we came down into that 45.75 level to take some profit a point or two in front. And if you would have done that, you would have captured the major swing high of the move and the major swing low. And it's almost every day we see this type of stuff happen, right? So if you missed out on this whole short parade, I guess we can call it the short parade, you got the opportunity one more time as it was stair-stepping down the levels, right? And if you just kind of zoom back just a little bit, it was quite literally holding the back end of this level, holding the back end of the next roadmap level, now holding the back end of the next roadmap level, right? So the stair-step or inverse stair-step off all the levels. And if you missed out on the entry here, you could have tried to short off the 200, but it was a little bit more risk you had to take on, until ultimately they came down. And notice what happened here. We bounced a tick or two in front, and then we held nearly to the tick here. But the bears were just too strong, and each bounce out was just a failure there for the bulls, right? And then they went ahead and came down. And then you got the next stair step. Once we held down below the next roadmap level, came right to it right there, kissed it, and then got a beautiful opportunity for another fade. And then they didn't make it easy, right? It wasn't a straight line down to the next area. And they came back and tested it, and came back and tested it. And then at the end of the day here, it was just kind of a chop fest, right? So you had the opportunity in the morning to fade the VWAP, to fade each of these roadmap levels and take on very limited risk for that sell-off. But then we got a sideways market for the rest of the day. So it was super choppy. And like I said, we do have a retracement level that I failed to put on the chart before the open yesterday. And that level was, let's see if I can pull it up here. So this wasn't on the chart, and I fully accept that responsibility that I forgot to put it on there. Or I kind of failed to. I was thinking it was just not necessary. But sure enough, they came down, and this was basically the low of the day. They held to the tick in so many instances there, and then the market closed and we got the bounce in the overnight session, right? So that wasn't on there, but it should have been. That's the major 38 retrace. And then despite that, even though that wasn't on there at the time, we did have our roadmap level here, which again was the major rotational point inside of the chop, right? So there were countless opportunities in here to fade off of it, to buy it. If you were to zoom in and look at all the details here, first of all the support, let's go back here, all the support off of it were opportunities for the bulls. All the resistance off of it were opportunities for bearish setups. And again, like I said, inside of the chop, if you look inside of here, they were still coming right to it, holding off of it, then getting above it and holding above it on the pullbacks, right? Holding, then getting back below it, holding below it, getting above it, pulling back, holding above it. So it was still a very important rotational spot, right? And then finally towards the end of the day comes right back to it, holds, bearish divergence, off again. So there were plenty of opportunities to fade the back end of the level, or once it got above that level, to buy, looking for that bounce out, and you could have made a little bit of money, right? And then at the end of the day, they came back, tested it, and got this final fade. And on that final fade, you got your tag of the 200 there for another opportunity. So there were some decent stuff that you could have tried at the end of the day with the chop. And that brought us here into the overnight session now, where we're still continuing to chop. Again, inside of that 100-point range. And it looks like the bulls are defending. And if I get that level back on there, give me 1 second, because this is now a level for today. And it really, again, should have been on the charts yesterday. But this major 38 retrace, which was basically the low of the day, right? They actually came right into it and were holding for quite a while. Now they're finding support from there, and the bulls are trying to defend, right? And if we zoom out, I just want to point out here that when we came up to this new all-time high off of the July 2nd low, this is kind of the scene of the crime for the next major bullish push out. What happened? They pushed, the pullback came nearly to the tick to the 38 retrace, and then we got the continuation to the upside, and we got a new high. So now we have to redraw that fib, and what do you know, they came right to the 38 yesterday, and in the overnight session they pulled back right to it here and bounced out. So they're trying to hold around the 38 just like they did back here a couple days ago. All right, so that's what we're seeing here in the overnight session. Bulls trying to defend the major 38, and it is pretty messy inside of this area. Despite the messiness, there have been some decent rotations right around the levels, but a total chop fest, right? So that kind of that finishes the review for the last day and the overnight session. Let's go ahead and jump up to the higher time frames and see if they have anything new to say for this morning.